I had a philosophy professor in university that scared a lot of students with his demeanor. Tall Scriven is his name. He wore a lot of black, sometimes a black leather jacket, if I'm remembering correctly, but he always had a single earring that wasn't too big, but you could see it from all the way in the back of the lecture hall. His face was usually scrunched up in what appeared to be a perpetual scowl, like he was always in a bad mood. He was tall, too, and his voice was pretty gruff. Intimidated might be how more than a few students felt, but then he'd smile or even laugh at something he said, and then you'd remember that this guy was all right. Well, there was that one single time he called out a few students who kept laughing to themselves for a while by laughing himself. That kind of ha ha, very funny, and then saying a few choice words to them. I think back to this moment occasionally. Before then, I had thought that he was a competent philosophy professor in the utilitarian area who had largely resigned himself to the realities of trying to teach philosophy as a general education course. After this moment, though, I thought that he was a competent professor and a competent philosopher with a utilitarian bent. The way he put down those students was just enough, so effective, and it avoided miring the rest of the room in guilt. Well, secondhand guilt maybe, and a bit of shame on the side. There was no collective punishment by the instructor in charge, as is so often the case, but I think that a lot of us, the other students in the lecture hall that is, we all punished ourselves. Shortly before beginning his unit on Plato's The Republic, Tal Scriven said something to the effect of, "For most of you, this book is going to be something that you'll read for this class and not think much of ever again. For a few of you, reading this book is going to change your life." I often think back to this moment, too. What Tal Scriven said, or more precisely, what he did by saying that, continues, even now, to challenge some things that I had decided on long after taking his course. If I were in his shoes, if I were someone in charge of educating hundreds of young adults every school year, if I were an educator tasked with introducing Plato, introducing his dialogues to those unfamiliar, then what would compel me to preface this monumental task with such a statement? I do not think it was a throwaway remark. Someone might liken it to something more than just spoiling a potentially compelling story. I think some of you can think of stories which still compel us, even if they are spoiled, and even if the compulsion was not what it would have been had the story not been spoiled. Someone else might liken it to depriving someone of the chance at experiencing something which might be edifying, because in certain cases, to know the reputation of something is to either lessen the power of that thing on account of a bad reputation, or to exaggerate the expectations placed upon that thing to the point where someone might be disappointed when it all doesn't turn out the way they had been expecting. One might say that Tal Scriven was doing all of these things at once when referring to the Republic. Set these thoughts aside for now, though. Sometimes people make certain things part of their personal religious canon, and then they try and encourage you to experience things from their canon in order to spread the good word. You know it, I know it, I've done it myself plenty of times. But you probably also know that this doesn't always go down too well for a variety of reasons. Interpersonally speaking, sometimes it is that you reject someone's canon when offered it, whether it be through a gentle push away or a heavy-handed slap on the cheek. And to reject someone's religious canon is to reject a deeply personal part of them. They feel hurt. They might even feel offended in some way, betrayed, a betrayal of confidence. Internally speaking, oftentimes it is, that to deify your own gods and to write your own dogma, even as someone who explicitly rejects the idea of doing such things, is to further subsume yourself within bad faith. Still, religiosity is religiosity, and the one who stumbles during their efforts to spread the good word often gets up to try again, over and over again. Some people do stumble and get up enough times and then find that there are no takers anywhere for what they're trying to spread, and then go on to reject the world. To me, someone who offers up something like the Republic with the words, "Most of you won't care, some of you will care a lot," is someone who is, at the very least, deeply aware of all this. In reflection, by those few words, Tal Scriven displayed to me, at once, a deep understanding of the power of things like the Republic, the good that Plato was trying to effect upon those who would give him a chance, and a sort of quiet, detached, almost dispassionate admiration, but also a deep understanding of the thoughts and feelings which compels some to deify people like Plato, to turn his dialogues arguing for an examined life into unassailable holy scripture, to turn a reasoned avoidance of rhetoric and sophistry into a dogmatic, unsubstantiated faith in dialectic. In a word, Tal Scriven showed restraint. A real restraint, I think. Some people withhold information or play it coy in order to build up some demi-bodhisattva mystique. Others claim, "I don't know, I'm still learning," while believing themselves the holder of all the cards. These are displays of the mere aesthetics of restraint, not restraint itself. When I say real restraint, I think that whosoever displays real restraint probably once saw how bad it could get when it was not exercised in either others or themselves. To get back to those words, which stay with me all these years later then, I think that Tal Scriven said those words partially in order to lead by example. I think I very well might have become someone guilty of turning Plato and his Socrates into another two of the gods in my pantheon, and the Republic one text among many in my holy scriptures. The act of sanctification was the sin, and the one who did the sanctifying the sinner. The thing that was sanctified is free of sin. To remind us of this, I think that Tal Scriven planted a little gadfly into the back of our brains, which would hopefully remind us when we would need a reminder the most, that we might appreciate what we read, we might appreciate the individual who wrote what we read, we might appreciate the thoughts and ideas contained within, but at no point should we begin to move towards an understanding of the text and of the author, which borders on deification. To a young, impressionable adult who doesn't have the luxury of or inclination for caring about much in the world beyond getting by, day by day, then this gadfly might sit unnoticed and undisturbed. But for the young, impressionable adult who has the luxury of and inclination for caring, and who also very much wants to place their faith in something beyond themselves, then this gadfly will be very annoying indeed. So now I try my best to show restraint, not by outright saying so, not by implicitly suggesting to others that I might be showing it even as I speak to them, but by in other ways.
女士们、先生们，凡通过12306网站订购了高、动、城4等车票的旅客，在高铁车站均可持本人2代身份证，直接通过闸机验证进出站。若需报销凭证时，可于购票乘车日起31日内，含当日到车站窗口或自动收取票机换取车票。女士们、先生们，本次列车全列禁烟，请您不要在列车上吸烟。列车就要到站，由于动车停站时间很短，没有到站的旅客请不要下车。到站旅客请提前到车门口等候下车。到站时，车门将自动开启，请不要依靠车门。下车时，请留意列车与站台间。